Welcome, everybody, to the investthis podcast 2.0 Wealth Mindset, where we dive into the minds of the successful real estate entrepreneur to uncover the tips and tricks that have allowed them to keep moving forward. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and I'm excited that you're here with us. Hey, everybody, this is another episode of the investthis podcast. This is the 97th episode of the investthis podcast, actually. We're coming up on episode number 100, which is going to be exciting. You're going to not want to miss that. Make sure you tune back in. And real quick, I want to remind everybody that if you're getting value from the podcast, you have to share it. You got to tell your friends. You got to invite your friends to come listen to it. If you got something out of it, then somebody else is going to get something out of it. So please like it, share, subscribe. Make sure you come back each and every week because we got new and exciting stuff all the time. Especially today, we got Dan Schwartz with us once again. You'll recognize that name from episode number 30, also episode number 80, and he is the CEO and co-founder of InvestorFuse. So Dan, welcome back, man.
It's good to be back. Feels like home.
I like it. It is home. It is home. Welcome home.
Yes.
Hey, so, let's kind of give an update for those of you listeners that have not tuned into episode 30 or 80. I don't know why that's the case, but if that was you, I'm going to give Dan, why don't you just tell them what to expect out of you? Where do you come from? What are you working on now?
Yeah, so I come to the table with two different perspectives. One, I was a former full-time wholesaler and landlord and pivoted to a software entrepreneur. And those two perspectives are drastically different because one business is transactional and another business is recurring revenue. And if you can bring those two worlds together and create a recurring revenue transaction business, then all of a sudden you have an asset. And I believe that there's a whole new mindset that isn't being taught in the space right now around turning your wholesaling, turning your flipping, no matter what your exit strategy is, into an asset. And it's a completely different skill set than just doing a deal. And that's kind of what I'm coming to the table with. I run a company called InvestorFuse, which helps you convert incoming qualified leads into contracts. It's a process for you, for your acquisitions team, just to lock deals up all day. And that is the software that we run. We have an amazing support team that basically helps you process all your leads and capture all your data correctly. However, that's just one piece of the puzzle. And so lately I've been diving into the full picture of what it takes to be a successful real estate entrepreneur. And that's what I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it too, because I think this works very well with the mindset side of things, because what you've had to do in order to make this change in your business and your life is you had a shift of your mind from transactional to how to turn that transactional business into an asset. So
yeah.
What was that for you? How did that start? And where did that really start to transform for you?
I think a big piece of it is experience. And another piece is, I don't want to say age, but I feel like as you evolve in business as an entrepreneur, you start to value long-term thinking more than short-term thinking. Short-term thinking meaning like, I got to do whatever it takes just to get a deal done. I don't care what I have to do. I'm not going to document everything. I'm just going to take action willy-nilly, be stubborn, and just get deals done and stack cash. That's great mindset to get going and build the confidence up. But really, in order to start working on a business that can make money without you being present all the time and having to be short-term brute force, you need to sort of start doing long-term strategic thinking and building your business and systemizing your business in a way that will make you more money with less time invested into it. And it's just a different mindset. Long-term thinking is building an asset that eventually you could maybe sell. And short-term thinking is just getting a deal done and then really not having a plan in place for the next deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
you need to feel both sides of that, I think, in order to understand the power of long-term thinking.
Long-term thinking is such an important piece of every single business, no matter whether you're a wholesale business or fix and flip or whatever, not even in real estate, just any business at all.
Yeah.
Right. How does that, where does that stem from? Were your parents what was your upbringing? Like, were your parents entrepreneurs? Did they have W-2 jobs?
Both, yeah, both parents had W-2 jobs. My dad was a salesman, so he just constantly worked. We moved around a lot. And my dad was just always, he's a people person. He's just always schmoozing with people. And he was great at his job. Like, I was blessed to have a very solid upbringing with hardworking parents. However, I also noted how hard they worked and never really desired that, right? Like, it's funny now, like, I sort of have taken on a lot of the traits of my dad, like being a salesperson and traveling a lot and doing a lot of the things that he's done. However, I wanted to do it on my terms, right? I didn't want to work in a corporate, like he was corporate sales.
Right.
So I think that might have rooted into my obsession to like hack the system a little bit. Like, all right, we're in like modern day now. There's got to be another way other than what I saw my dad do, like growing up for 25 years. And also going to business school, I think kind of helped wrap my head around it a little bit. However, I take that back. You don't really learn how to do business in business school. I think it just sort of incepted the idea of just like, I'm pretty good at this business stuff. Let's see how far I can take it. And then the first thing, my first real business venture was actually nothing to do with real estate. I was like publishing ebooks, but I was doing it in a way that I didn't have to write the ebook. So I like would find a trending topic, the short-term thinking. Like I would find a trending topic like kombucha, and then I would hire a ghostwriter to write the book on kombucha and then publish it on the Kindle store, which was like this new hot thing back in like 2011. And I still make a couple bucks every single month off that book. Like I'm not even joking. So I've always had this entrepreneurial itch that I wanted to scratch, and then I found real estate and wholesaling, and it's just evolved from there.
And kind of before the call here, we were talking about real estate. Wholesaling is not, it's more of a marketing and sales business. Anybody who's in the business knows that. It's not, real estate is the product that you sell or the product that is traded through the transaction. But, if you're wholesaling specifically and only that, or even.
You're not an investor if you're wholesaling only.
Right. I mean, not in that. You're investing in your business or whatever. But.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The reason I asked that question is that, people's lifestyle when they're growing up, and I know that other listeners can relate to this, because when you're growing up and you watch how your parents work, and like that has an everlasting effect on how you work and how your life goes. And so I'm interested to understand what in your mind changed for you from growing up and watching your hardworking parents. How did that give you the edge to shift over to what you're thinking about now? Because now you're thinking about the long term. You're thinking about, you built a business. Ever since I met you, you've always talked about systemizing, system, right? And that was what I met you when,
2013, 14.
13, yeah. So it's been a while, man.
I was still in the band when I met you.
What's that?
I was still touring in the band when I met you, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was when Real Automation Biz was still your thing with
Joe.
With Joe, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But so systems, yeah, you're right. So systems is kind of what started this whole journey towards InvestorFuse.
Yep.
Because I realized that, all right, so here's an admission. I'm lazy. And I'm sure a lot of people listen to this too. Like, I'm lazy. And I'm not ambitious. Like, I'm super ambitious, but I'm also lazy. So that's just like the entrepreneurial quality right there, where if you'll do whatever you possibly can do to make the most in the least amount of time.
Yeah. And
the way to do that happens to also be the long-term way, which is building systems for other people to do the transaction or whatever your business is instead of you, in spite of you. So it just sort of happened to be like I stumbled on, the concept of systems isn't anything new, right? Like,
right.
Henry Ford invented the assembly line, right? And then it created like the manufacturing revolution, and that's driven by systems. We're just applying the same strategies that are timeless to this business. And it's a totally different skill set to build systems and to let go of doing a lot of stuff yourself And this is like the next challenge that a lot of people need to sort of wrap their head around if they want to be like a lazy person that makes a bunch of money. And that's sort of been my obsession. And so I got good at teaching people how to make systems using Podio back in 2015 or so. And that was the real automation. Taught them how to set up the Podio and do the Globy flow. And it basically created the template for what eventually became InvestorFuse, which is the monthly subscription to a platform that helps you convert your leads.
So, this really goes on the right approach, because you're in today's world where the internet is so prevalent and technology evolves so quickly, right? These systems and these ways where you can be lazy and make a lot of money. I want to talk about your input on how technology and how fast technology is changing, and especially since we're talking about the real estate industry, specifically in the real estate industry, it's having a massive impact on things. What's your take on that? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So the craziest thing right now is just what's happening with data.
Yeah.
You can find anyone's cell phone number now, anybody's. So what is that going to do when everybody now has like the barrier to find anybody's cell phone number in a super targeted way? Like you can find someone that's going through a foreclosure and then call them on their cell phone. Like, on their cell phone, you can text them. Like, what does that do? It's freaking crazy. 5 years ago, this wasn't even a reality, right?
Right.
Cold calling really just started to hit the wholesaling mainstream like 2 years ago. And all of the technologies that have been created to support it have made it super easy to text, text blast and cold call, to the point that now, like, people are struggling to find a competitive advantage. I think that's what technology is doing. It's lowering the barrier to entry, and it's creating a very compact and sort of high pressure boiling pot of water with a bunch of people competing over the same deals. It still remains to be seen how that's going to affect things like on a macroeconomic level. But if anything, it's a forcing function. The fact that data is so accessible, the fact that there's services that can help automate stuff like left and right, makes it more important to work on your mindset and build a team and build a scalable infrastructure so that you can beat out the other guy that's just doing stuff on his own. So like, the fact that technology is so good means that you need to be good at the human stuff. Like you need to be good at the thing that is timeless, the ability to run a business, right?
And I want to talk about the competitive advantage side of things as well, because especially here, I think they're in Austin. I know they're in some markets in Texas, but the iBuyers and the prevalence is crazy. Like here in Phoenix, they've really taken it's a massive impact. It really is. They're changing the market and how it works. However, even though they have more money to spend, they don't have, the same type of personality that you can give. So the competitive advantage that I still maintain is that you got to be a good person, right? You still have to have that human element, because at the end of the day, we're still talking about buying and selling people's houses where they live, where they grow, where they raise their kids, where, different scenarios in their life. For a lot of people, for most people, it's the largest purchase that they make in their entire life, right? And so there's still a very big emotional connection there for a lot of people. And so you have to be able to, that is a competitive advantage that I think that one individual person can have over the other people. Not only that, but also good business sense, good customer service, making sure that your systems that you're automating and things like that all still, give that client or that person you're interacting with a really good customer experience.
Yeah.
Those are just big takeaways I've seen.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yes, iBuyers are taking a slice of the pie, but there's no absolutes in this business. No. Like they're never going to take 100% of the pie.
Right.
So it's just how good of a business can you create? How good of an experience can you create for the people that you're serving, the sellers, the buyers, that will guarantee you're always going to have a slice of it. And there is always going to be that slice available because there's millions and millions of houses. People are always going to be selling and moving and going through financial distress till the end of time.
Right.
And you're going to have strategies in place that these other guys aren't going to be using. Like iBuyers are just online marketers, right?
Right.
They're not direct to sales,
Right.
direct to seller like you are.
Right. Right. So update me with what's going on with InvestorFuse, on kind of what's new in this new system, or not system, but new academy that you've unleashed, because I think that it's really, really important for people on the mindset of how they're operating their business. I want to learn more about it. I'm sure the listeners do too. So please.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that are happening right now with InvestorFuse. One, IF3, and this is coming out in the next few months. We're actually currently migrating existing members onto a brand new interface, brand new. So last year we created a standalone system off of Podio, and 2.0 we called it. And we're taking what we learned from that experience, and we're taking what we liked from Podio. 2.0, more rigid, gives you a process that's super simple. Podio, very flexible, extremely customizable. So we're bringing some of that flexibility in to the picture so that people have more of a flexible process, so it works for their style of operating, while maintaining the simplicity of processing your leads, going on the appointment, following up automatically, and getting the thing under contract and taking it to closing, really managing the transaction itself. And that's what IF3 is. And we've completely reshaped the product from the ground up with a new development team and solving all of the problems that we encountered with our first standalone system. And that's going to be a big part of our story this year, is launching IF3. You're going to be able to migrate all your data over from Podio or from 2.0 immediately onto this new platform. It's super quick, it's super fast, it's extremely flexible and customizable, and it's simple as heck. So that's like the big kind of announcement that's going to be a big part of my personal experience over the next few months. But the thing that I'm really excited about, even beyond that, is what we're doing with the Academy. So we launched back in December, we launched the 80/20 Investor Academy. And we did it because we really asked the question from purely from a selfish perspective, like, how do we get our customers to keep paying us? How do we keep them in business? And it's a great question to ask, right? Because we're in this to help businesses stay in business and to continue and grow and scale. And we realize that software is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
In fact, it's like the most distracting piece, because people think that software is the thing that's going to get them successful, when in reality, it's just a symptom. If you're having trouble with your software, it's a symptom to an underlying problem. And it's the tip of the iceberg. We realize that not only is strategy important, not only is technology important, but also your team, your systems and processes, right? Your playbook, your full tech stack outside of just InvestorFuse. Like, how are you guys communicating with each other on your team? How do you set up your laptop and your mobile life so that you have an efficient day-to-day work experience?
Right.
How do you manage your growth with KPIs? Are you actually tracking your KPIs, your dashboards? Most people aren't, which boggles my mind, because you and I talk about this all the time. Like, you live and die by numbers, because that's how you can see the reality of your situation and, see the reality of other people's work when you start hiring people. How do you hire the right people at different stages of growth, recruiting? How do you manage people? How do you become a leader of people? How do you become a leader of yourself? How do you stay motivated every single day? We were talking just before this, that mindset is something you need to work on every single day. There's a spark that will get you towards perpetual improvement, but it's perpetual. Like, it constantly is something you need to maintain. So what are some habits you can put in place to become a better entrepreneur and continue to evolve your health, your wellness, your leadership style? That's like the foundation of it, right? Like, getting your mind right is the thing that will inform all those other things I just talked about. Building a culture with your team so that you have the world-class A players that want to come work for you and do more deals for you. These are all the things that it really truly takes to become a real estate investing entrepreneur that owns a business instead of just like a hustle. And this is the thing that I'm most passionate about, because I figured this out with InvestorFuse. But I had to start InvestorFuse in order to really figure this out. I had to stop wholesaling to figure out that it's possible to build an asset like that, where other people can generate revenue and grow your wealth. and applying those principles to real estate investing is what we do in the academy. So it's been exciting to directly get to help people out with that journey, because it's a completely different skill set than just learning how to skip trace people and sending them an offer.
And putting the actual, like doing the logistics of doing deals, right? I mean, that
Right.
part, there's 500 podcasts. All you listeners are listening to this podcast now, I know, have seen the 500 other podcasts are on how to do real estate deals, right? They're out there. But I want to go over two things, and I'm going to tell you so I don't forget. Number one, what is your routine? How do you continually keep your sword sharp, so to speak, and make sure you stay motivated? And then the 80-20. So talk about 80-20 for those listeners. Not everybody understands what that is, right?
Yeah.
So talk about what that is and the people that have joined the academy, some of the successes that you've seen, some of the failures that you've heard from people as well, and what they're struggling with, because that's what these communities offer, right? They show real life problems that everybody's going through. It's just some people speak up and others, everybody has gone through the same type of stuff though. So
for sure. Okay. So I'll start with the 80-20 in my life.
Okay.
How I apply it. So 80-20 is the Purrito Principle. It's a law of nature that basically says that there's a small number of inputs or efforts that produce a disproportionate amount of the results that you're looking for. So the thing is with 80-20 is it actually goes inward. So if you isolate the one thing that gives you the most possible result, well, then you can go into that one thing and determine that there's actually elements of that also have 80-20. So it kind of goes inwards. It's the ultimate like lazy person's law of nature, because it's the thing, like you can ignore the trivial many and just focus on the essential few things that bring you the most possible, in this case, money or time back into your life. And that's like the principle that we live and die by here inside of InvestorFuse and with my life in general. So I think some of the things that I do every single day that I know are my 80-20, one, I exercise every single day because I understand that my energy is the 80-20 of, like, if I only focus on having consistent high energy, then I know that will topple over every single domino that I have to do that day.
Right.
So exercising is important. The other things I do are we use Basecamp. So project management. So I live and die off my calendar. If I ever have to execute something, I make sure that it's documented inside of our project management system, and my whole team does too. So this way I'm not just doing stuff willy-nilly. There's actually like records of it, and I can like check it off, and my team can see everything, and I can go and I can see what they're working on. We've become obsessed with this tool Basecamp, and we teach people how to get really good at like getting ish done, because that's something that you need to be intentional about. You can't just like wake up and just do stuff willy-nilly, which is actually kind of my natural way of doing stuff, is just like kind of get up and I'll just trust that I know the most important thing to do. So I kind of bring that energy into my business, but I know that that's not my 80-20. Like my 80-20 is just like making sure it's on the calendar and just doing the calendar. Like that's it.
Is Basecamp is a software I don't know what Basecamp is.
We're using it instead of Slack.
Okay.
Because it's contextual execution versus Slack. You just have like long chat threads about whatever.
Yep.
And there isn't any context around like what it is about. So inside of Basecamp, we have like marketing and customer success and customer support and finance and HR. Like we have these different areas, the 80-20 Investor Academy, sales. Like we have these different departments, and then each of those departments have their own set of action items and chats and campfires, as they call it, and calendars, and everything kind of comes together. There's also like these automated daily updates, like what did you do today? So I can go and I can see that my team, like what they're all working on, and it's just a good way to keep pulse on everything.
So you can document everything within Basecamp and still communicate about what's being documented. Did I hear that correctly?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And this is just in terms of like to-dos, like tasks. our actual like processes are on a separate platform, but we have a whole playbook for every aspect of our business. And that is definitely an 80-20. And it took a lot of effort to like bake that into our culture. But we have someone on our team, Rachel, who basically, if she sees something being done consistently that doesn't have like a really detailed playbook for it, she'll make sure that someone goes and makes a playbook for it and like documents it. And that's how we've been able to deliver like support. Like we get back to customers in like under 3 minutes. And like we go above and beyond to help them and make sure that they have what they need.
100%.
Because we've dialed in our internal operations. So we bring that level of 80-20 thinking into the like structuring your investing business.
Sure.
And to answer the question about the experience people have had so far, the first week is all about changing your paradigm, goal setting, and understanding how you spend your time. And I think the first week is where people have this like revelation of like, oh, I haven't been productive, have I? And man, this is a whole new way of thinking about my business. And I think the biggest result so far, since we've only been doing this for 6 to 7 weeks now with people, is just the mental clarity people have now of, oh, my one thing, my 80-20 isn't all this extra like tactical stuff that I've been distracting myself with. It's shifting the question to who, not how, can I bring on to take this away from me altogether? And what systems can I build so that other people can do their job amazingly well? Building systems so that other people can do their job amazingly well. That's the sort of mindset shift that people are experiencing, and they're starting to understand the power of it. They're hiring people on their team using our recruiting methods. They're actually starting to get a bunch of time back so they can focus on building these structures for consistent, repetitive deal flow.
Yep.
And the things that we're seeing people have struggle with is when it gets time to do the hard work, like documenting your processes, people are starting to push back a little bit because that isn't fun. Like, it's not sexy. We don't get into this business to write out processes and document stuff. Like, it's not what we signed up for.
It's horrible.
And it's horrible for an entrepreneur, like, you know, entrepreneurs like us that have like ADD and just want to make money. That stuff doesn't feel like it's making money. Mm-hmm. But when you switch to the long-term thinking that we talked about, you actually realize that like every hour you invest into that homework stuff gets you like 10,000 hours in the future. So it's like you have to start to learn to feel good about doing that type of working on your business instead of working in your business work. 100%. And yes, that's what people are coming to terms with right now. And some people, like, they get stuck on week 2. It's all about getting it out of your head. It's like getting your business and your way of operating out of your head, and then uncovering where the biggest bottlenecks are. That's what happens in the second phase of the academy. And sometimes, like we referenced this before, like sometimes you just don't want it bad enough to go through this work. You don't want it bad enough to make this mindset shift. You might not have enough pain because you might already be making enough money right now. And that actually, like, just as you were talking about, like, is actually what is preventing people from getting to the next level. So part of my job is to keep people confident and to make sure that they break through those limiting beliefs, fear of success, you know, like, man, what if I get good at all this stuff? Now I have to lead people. Now I have to become a leader instead of just like the guy that's just like
terrifying,
tying up deals. It's terrifying.
Yep.
But it's what's necessary if you want to be a true business owner, if you want to move from being a self-employed person to owning a system that works for you. This is just like, you just need to come to grips with, that's the person I need to be now. So that's what we've been dealing with.
That mental agreement, right? You make a mental agreement about this is the new person you have to become. Do you know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is?
Yeah, I do.
So I'm reading his book right now. It's
nice. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's exactly. Yep. And it's life changing, right? Because it talks about that if you want to have a different lifestyle than what you have today, you need to start by thinking differently than you're thinking today. Period.
Yeah.
Flat out. That, you know, this world is nothing. The thoughts matter. The thoughts have everything to do with how you're going to experience your life, how things just start to show up in your life is a lot about your thinking. And so from a mindset standpoint, what you're talking about is that you're showing people how to think differently, and then therefore it's changing how their lives are.
And being open to stuff like that, reading that book. How do you overcome the woo-woo nature of like understanding your thoughts, and self-awareness is actually like a pivotal thing to this whole process? Like some people think it's woo-woo right now. Maybe you thought that at some point. How do you get people to overcome that when you're talking to people?
You know what? I realize that when I'm talking to people that still feel that way, then they're not ready yet. They're not ready for the truth. I think that everybody comes to a point when they're ready for the truth. They stop thinking it's woo-woo. When you see it to start to show up with your life, you start thinking a certain way repetitively, and then all of a sudden it just starts to appear. You'll find out real quickly that maybe it's not all woo-woo. And until that point, and for me, you're right. I didn't always think that way. The first time I heard that, I was like, no way.
I don't need to meditate.
I don't need to meditate. And now I've been meditating every single day for like 3 years, and it has changed my life. And I know it has a massive impact on it. But
that's another one of my 80-20 things, by the way, every morning.
Meditation?
Yep.
Oh man, goes hand in hand with working out. Like you have to.
It's not part of that. Your health and wellness.
Yep. Your body and your mind, because that is your body. Your mind is your body, and your body is your mind. So that's kind of another rabbit hole we could go down. But I think that it's super, super important. So
success requires abnormal thinking. Abnormal thinking creates abnormal results, which in this case is a lot of money, a business that runs without you. Normal thinking just leads to normal, average, mediocre Joe results.
Yep.
So just decide which one you want to be. Right?
Well, and the other thing, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, pretty much the majority of people out there are just normal, right? And the normal person makes a normal, barely above minimum wage standard, and takes their one vacation a year maybe, and they can barely scrape by and whatever, and that's average, and that's normal, and that's accepted for most people. But you can have so much more and be so much more. And it's not even about having, right? Because if you just, money doesn't create happiness. It just the pursuit of that, I think, does. And I know the people that are listening to this podcast are not the average Joe out there. That's who is attracted to this type of podcast and who would spend the time to be on this call up to this point, right? You're thinking abnormally. And so that's really the decision maker between somebody who is successful and who's not. It's somebody who's willing to think a little bit abnormal to get there. I'm
and we kind of talked about this earlier. It would be a good little thing to go down. Like, how do you dial in your why? Like, how do you tap into that internal motivation that can get you on this path anyways? And what I've been helping people with is like getting clear on what their why is. And a good question, if you don't have enough pain right now, a good question to ask is, who would you disappoint if you went out of business or stopped doing what you're doing right now in business? Who would you disappoint? And another one is, who do you want to prove wrong by becoming massively successful?
You got the haters out there, somebody that hated you, that didn't agree with you, that you were going to go out on your own. Who are you going to show them? Who out there is that person that you can show them?
It could be yourself too.
It could. For a lot of people it is, right? I mean, I don't know if we talked about it on the call or not, but a fear of success for a lot of people, right? If you're afraid of being successful yourself, you're never going to get there.
Well, no, you're not being afraid of being successful. Everybody wants to have fancy cars and a lot of money. You're afraid of the person that you must become to be living in that. The person that must be leading people and be in control of all this capital. You're afraid of the responsibility of success.
Yep.
When in reality, it's just the same work that you're doing now. You're just applying your energy and your time towards a different thing. You're applying it more towards others and building systems for other people to do their job really, really well. And you're doing your team service by just operating in your zone, which is whatever you're great at. You could be great at the due diligence, the underwriting piece of this business. or you could only like hanging out with the high level strategic stuff or the networking. Like whatever your zone is, like you got to stay in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to do that. I was thinking about something. I was going to say it right there at the end, and now I forgot. So I'm going to keep going with that. I hope
you didn't meditate long enough today, bro.
The time of this recording, it is a Monday morning. Yeah. Anyways, so going back on, what does your daily routine look like every day? Like, what do you do to stay really sharp? You mentioned meditation. You mentioned working out, but there's got to be more than that. I know that there's a little bit more than that for me as well. So, but I want to hear what other things are you doing, and then I'll chime in with more of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I wrote a post about this today. I could decide to just not work if I wanted to, and my company would still bring in revenue, and we'd still be able to deliver product and amazing support without any of my input. However, I choose to work hard on my business because I want to work hard. Like I want to do this. Like I want to show up for my team. I want to show up for my customers, and I want to show up for the people that haven't found me yet that need me.
Right.
So I decide to work on my business. So most of my day I spend working. Like after my morning ritual, which is light exercise, I'll hop on my Peloton bike and do like a 20-minute HIIT workout. That's just to get my blood pumping. I'll work out. I try to lift 2 or 3 times per week at the gym. Later in the day, I don't eat. So I actually intermittent fast because I've found that I'm sharper when I'm fasting in a fasted state. So this is kind of ties into health and wellness. And I know this is a big thing that we could have a whole nother
thing
on.
Yeah.
But I don't eat until after my most important business calls. I don't eat. Sometimes I don't even eat till dinner. I'll just get all my calories in at dinner. And that works really well for me because I just think so much clearer when there's all the blood isn't in my stomach, right? My blood's up here where I need it. So that's kind of a woo-woo thing that you'll get over once you experience how awesome it is to think in a fasted state. That's one thing. But right now, man, my days are spent on high-level strategic thinking and sales calls for the academy, because that is what has the biggest leverage effects right now for my business. Where we launched the academy because it allows us to understand exactly what people need to overcome and to become long-term customers of ours. So it's just like super 80-20, the fact that I'm working on this exclusively. And also kind of dialing in our game plan for taking IF3 to the market. So I'm just working on it. It's fun for me to work on stuff just like it is for you to grind it out and get deals done. So working in my zone of genius makes it easier to feel like work is just like play and work are the same, right? But when you have to do all the bullshit, all the admin, all the people ops stuff, like this, you might be great at that. So I'm not talking to you, but if you're kind of like Scott and I, and you're really just not good at it, then you're going to burn yourself out. So you owe it to your business to like create the infrastructure where you're just operating in that zone. And that is my 80-20.
Well, and I think that you touched on something that kind of goes on to what I was talking about with the book, is you think about high-level thinking on a daily basis. That's part of your natural routine that you're doing every single day. And because you're putting that into the universe or putting it out there from having these mind thoughts, it's becoming reality for your life, right? I mean, that's like these high-level thoughts as part of my daily routine now, or has been for a little while, but it's, with the meditation comes the seeing of what I'm going to accomplish that day and what I'm going to do that day and how my day is going to end up and how my day is going to move forward and, how the week is going to go forward and how we're going to progress, and like this forward thinking and really thinking everything out is part of a really productive day, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, man, you know what? It's always good to have you on here. I think that there's a lot of things that you're doing with not only with InvestorFuse to help free people up on their time, but also the academy, getting people to think a different way in order to make their business go a different way, right?
Yeah, it also forces them to take the specific steps to like systemize their business, which is what people kind of need. It's like, tell me what to do, and that's what we do with this.
Yep. Yep. Well, and that probably you're changing lives, man. I mean, you're allowing people to think like you've been thinking, right? You're allowing them to understand and implement what an 80/20 thought process looks like, which
Yep.
can be a truly a game changer for a lot of people. So,
100%.
you know, that hand in hand with the new InvestorFuse 3.0 that's going to come out, or IF3, which is a great way to put it. I like that.
IF3. Yep.
You know, you just you're onto something, man. I love it. I love it.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate that.
Let's do something. I want to go on, figure out kind of a lightning round, get a little bit more. Yeah, let's do a lightning round. You ready for that?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. So if you were to, and I don't know how you really can categorize this specifically, but how important would you say that mindset is to the success of your business and of your life?
If you think about an iceberg, your success and the strategy in your actual business is the tip of the iceberg. The whole large chunk that's supporting the tip of the iceberg is your mindset. So it is the 80/20 of everything. Just think about an iceberg.
That's a phenomenon. I mean, I would have not thought about that, but that's exactly it. Yeah, your mindset is just that. It is the massive foundation that's holding up that iceberg to get to the tip, right? I mean, that's great.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for like making that a new focus for the podcast, because that is like, that's the, not to overuse it, the 80/20 of what it takes to be competitive right now.
Absolutely, it is. No, that's a true statement. What are you reading right now? What book are you reading?
I'm doing this is the the new ClickFunnels challenge book. You suddenly lose everything. What would you do from day 1 to day 30 to save yourself? Just some interesting stuff in here, some case studies about what some folks have done from an online marketing perspective. So solid business read. And I'm listening to, on my iPhone, I'm listening to Trailblazer, which is the Mark Benioff book. Mark Benioff is the CEO of Salesforce, which is like the Mecca CRM, multi-billion-dollar CRM. So I like to just learn from that guy because he's super dialed in when it comes to creating culture in your business. And that's something that, you know, if you're the founder and CEO of your company, that's something that you need to be obsessed about as well.
And you want to follow people like that for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what are you trying to learn? I was going to try to pull it out of one of the books you're reading, but it's kind of what you're doing already. What specifically are you trying to learn right now?
What specifically I'm trying to learn is Facebook ads.
Okay.
So we, believe it or not, like InvestorFuse has grown from word of mouth, and we've never until now had to get serious about paid ads, like paid customer acquisition. Mm-hmm. So we're getting obsessed with that. We want to be really good at paid acquisition, just as it's important for real estate investors to be great at paid acquisition. Like, you need to know what your golden ratio is. Like, how much do I need to spend in marketing to generate X amount of dollars?
Yep.
And understanding that golden ratio is how you scale. We talk about scale a lot, but you don't want to scale by just like throwing money against the wall. You want to scale because you know exactly how much you're going to make when you invest $1. So I'm just applying that thinking right now into our growth as a software company.
I like it. Do you have a superpower, you know, within the 80/20 that you like to work off of? What is a superpower for you?
My intuition.
Okay.
I just learned to trust my gut. Like, if I didn't have a calendar, I would just somehow know what to work on.
Yeah.
Like, I would naturally gravitate towards the one thing that I know will provide the biggest ROI on my time and energy and money. So that's my superpower right now.
How'd you find it? How'd you find your superpower?
You know, I think I found it in that I became aware of it, like self-aware.
Yep.
When I started getting into self-awareness and meditation and mindfulness and mindset. Like, understanding how you work is so critical to all this, and understanding how your rational brain works with your unconscious brain, because your unconscious brain, like it or not, is controlling most of your behavior.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to sort of tune into that and like start to understand, like if I didn't have a calendar, if I didn't have anything to do, like watching what I do, like just naturally from my intuition, I realized that like my intuition is pretty smart. Like it knows kind of like what to do. Like getting on podcasts is something like it's a hell yeah when you ask me to do it. It's like, of course I'm gonna get on a podcast. One, because it's fun. Two, because it has like leverage effects. So that's sort of how I discovered it, just by starting to look inwards.
Yeah, I think that for so many people, when you start to learn about yourself, you look inside and what's going on, meditation, self-reflection, just understanding about why you do what you do every single day,
or why you don't do every single day,
or why you don't do. Yeah, what are these motivating factors for why you do or don't do certain things, right? And how do you change that? Once you are aware of that, now all of a sudden you can locate it and you can modify it if need be, or you can change it and you can get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's huge. Appreciate
habits. Yeah, Carlos does week 6 of the academy is all about personal optimization. Once your business systems are up and running, then it's about like, now that you have the time to invest into yourself, Carlos goes deep into like the habit stuff. And it's pretty interesting what you can do to like automate your discipline. That's what Carlos teaches you how to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Carlos told me about it while he was building it, I think, but I haven't looked at it. So maybe I'll check it out.
Nice.
We'll see what it is.
Yeah. So people can actually check out like what it looks like inside. I have a link if people want to actually see like what this all entails. I can share that if you want.
Yeah. I mean, why don't you share that to me? We'll make sure to add that in the show notes when we post it. And that way, all the listeners out there, if they want to check out what the portal looks like, could be pretty impactful for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So just go to that link and you can opt in to see like what it looks like inside and what the different phases are of how to actually systemize your business. And there's also a group of other people that are going through it. And then we do 2 Q&A weekly calls. So those calls will talk about everything from the type of stuff that we shared on this podcast to the tactical stuff, to the strategic stuff, to the hiring and the mindset. And that's sort of the continuing accountability that you get. And those calls have been really fun. So it's like half the value people are getting out of it is just those calls where everybody can come on and jam out with whatever their problems are. And it's also a good way to kind of keep ear to the ground to like new strategies and new tools, because there's, like we said, there's constantly new technology coming out, and that's sort of the how we make it real time.
Constant, man. Well, last thing here, where can the listeners reach you if they want to get back in touch with you with InvestorFuse, with IF3, if they want to get on the list for that, if they want to learn about more about other than going to the link, I guess, but
yeah,
where can they reach you?
Yeah, go to the link if you want to talk to me one-on-one.
Okay.
Don't schedule a call if you haven't done a deal yet. It's not really, if you haven't been able to tolerate, that's not like what I can teach you. There's YouTube University is going to do a much better job at that. However, if you relate to a lot of stuff we've been talking about and are kind of stuck in that brute force doing everything yourself mode, let's talk. We'll see if I can help you directly. Just go to that link. And if you have general questions, dan@investorfuse.com, just send me an email. Please send me an email. Like, it's crazy how many times I've given my email out to people on podcasts, like, which thousands of people hear, and no one sends me emails. So I'll answer them. Just whatever questions you have, just hit me up.
Yep. Well, hey man, I appreciate you being here. It's always good to catch up, good to kind of chat about what's new in Dan Schwartz's life and InvestorFuse. I mean, that's going to be exciting, man.
Back at you, dude.
It's it's always enlightening, that's for sure. And what you're doing with with the academy, I think is really important for the people, the listeners that are out there that want to try to systemize your life and use the 80-20 principle to do so. Check it out. I know it's just knowing Dan, I know it's phenomenal. So please get out there.
Appreciate that, man.
All right, dude. We'll chat with you soon. Thanks again for coming on, and keep killing it.
Thanks, man. You too.
Talk to you. See ya.